Okay, so here comes to the chapter summary of chapter 2 of the novel Scold. And this chapter is written in Mrs. Donnelly's point of view. Okay, who's Mrs. Donnelly? Okay, she's actually a social worker from the social service. Remember, Cap needed to be taken care of by a caregiver, another caregiver. So, social service sent Mrs. Donnelly, a social worker, to meet Cap at the hospital. And at the very first moment, Mrs. Donnelly met Cap, saw Cap, and Cap reminded Mrs. Donnelly of the Day-glo poncho and organic lentil. Okay, so why? Why would Mrs. Donnelly be reminded of these stuff, which was most likely representing hippie culture? Because Mrs. Donnelly actually has lived in Garland Farm 30 years ago when she was 5. She started living there for 6 years, and when she was there, she was called Floramundi. During the time when Mrs. Donnelly was in Garland when she was 5, she did all this stuff. She listened to sitar music, she ran around Garland Farm barefoot, okay, she wore pink dresses, and she shared parents with other kids. She protested the Vietnam War, and she did farm chores as well. So at that moment, Mrs. Donnelly knew that they actually shared similar life experience. She immediately threw the foster home address into the rubbish bin, and she asked Cap to stay with her. The reason is because she knew that they shared similar life experience, and she could help him to adapt into the life in the modern city. Originally, Cap actually refused. He didn't want to stay with Mrs. Donnelly. He wanted to go back to the Garland farm, but of course he couldn't because there's no one taking care of him. So, and also after knowing Mrs. Donnelly had stayed in Garland farm before, even though he didn't want to accept the offer, he eventually followed Mrs. Donnelly home. And this is the end of chapter 2.